everyone, it is Magnum. And I'm back from seeing the new found footage, soon to be a classic horror movie, The Gallows. This film was from the director and creator of previous hit films such as... Actually, that's the only reason I went and saw this movie. Because of the story behind it. You see, it was created by a bunch of randies. Bunch of kids, bunch of film students who got together and made a horror movie with their friends. And then it got picked up by a big studio, and now we have The Gallows. First thing I'd like to point out with this film is that 90% of the footage, 90% of the, the actual movie was created during a time when the people involved had no idea that their movie was going to end up, being distributed worldwide. They were just making a horror movie with their friends. So props to them, the film looks pretty good from the perspective of, essentially an amateur piece of film work. And if you're going to see this movie in the cinema, be prepared for the fact that it's not that good. It really still is like an amateur B-movie that would have been, direct to DVD sort of thing. Some people on the internet have talked about this movie as if it's the next Saw film, because, a bunch of amateur filmmakers get their movie distributed by, a big studio. This is nowhere near as fucking good as Saw, by any means. It's a found footage, cheap looking movie, and it should be, considered as such. But there are a couple of positive things I'll mention first. First thing I can say about the film that's good is the beginning of the movie. The actual found footage piece they do, showing the kid getting hung during a school play, like essentially being murdered, or it's an accident supposedly, looked very authentic, very real for a found footage film. It reminded me a bit of a scene in Wreck, Record, whatever you want to call it, that Spanish horror film, found footage movie, one of the best in the genre. Second positive thing I could say about the film is, and just for me, because I'm a guy who's into amateur film work as well, and making the odd movie with my friends, whatever, I see this movie and I feel a bit of audience participation. It looked like they had a lot of fun making this film. Most of the film was shot, as I said, with them having no idea this was going to end up on the big screen, and they had a cool effect for it, for me anyway. But for the average moviegoer, you might not get a lot out of it. But anyway, moving on. The rest of the movie, other than the beginning, I didn't like that much at all, and I can see many people saying this film sucked. Like, the first 30 minutes after the intro is a guy walking around with a camera just being a douchebag to people. Basically insult comedy, but really poorly written. The sort of stuff that Jonah Hill does, in The Wolf of Wall Street, for example.
You dress like shit, so fuck you!
Oh! And that stuff was really funny where, it's people insulting each other, but it's fucking crack up. In this film, it's just a guy going around throwing footballs at girls, and the dialogue is terribly written, not funny at all. And then it gets into the, the main scares of the film, and it's incredibly minimalist, incredibly cheap. And the actual creature, the actual demon in the movie is just, a person with a bag over their head, and you see him for about 30 seconds in the whole film. The actual scares in this film, and this is a generic thing to say about all these movies, as sad as it is to say, but they're all just jump scares. It's just startling. There's no actual, tension or fear in the movie, at least for me. And I don't like being startled. I don't like just staring at the thing going, they're just going to make a loud noise and I'm going to get a fright. I don't like startling movies. I don't get any pleasure out of that. And I nearly walked out at one point. The most scary film I've ever seen was called The Skin I Live In, starring Antonio Banderas. That is the scariest fucking horror movie I've ever seen. Did not have one jump scare. This film, nothing but jump scares, most boring fucking thing ever. If you want to get into movie making, make a horror movie, because fear is the easiest reaction to get out of an audience. And these guys made a horror movie, and it paid off really well for them. I would recommend this film for high viewing, or when you're smashed off your face, go and see this film. I think that would be the easiest way to find this film entertaining, or any movie entertaining for that matter, but no, really, you might find the bad acting and the complete lack of decent score, decent music was also another thing I hated, but you could put up with this movie if you were drunk or smashed. That all being said, I'd give this movie a 4 out of 10. Not a very great score, but if this film was just a B-movie, I was watching at a friend's house and my friend made this movie, I'd give it a fucking 10 out of 10. Great movie as a B-movie, terrible film as a big studio release. Almost criminal the amount this movie costs compared to how much it will make, even if it makes hardly any money. That all being said, this is my review of Gallows. Whether you liked this review or hated this review, please leave a comment and let me know on how I can improve with future movie reviews. Other than that, cheers for watching, subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and I'll see you on my next one. Thanks again, and goodbye for now.